Hi everyone, welcome to the inaugural event of the SCV Properties podcast. It's our first ever, so you're going to learn with us. I'm here with Caden Stanley, my name is Melanie Eden, and we have been doing real estate and property management for years, at least I have. So my backstory, a little bit about me is I have had my real estate broker's license from 2008. I have done at least 1,000 real estate transactions for clients of mine, as well as myself. I've owned as many as 200 doors at one time, and currently right now I own approximately 35 doors.
A little bit about myself. I started here at SCV Properties just over a year ago. Started by kind of learning from each department, whether it was trash and debris removal or rehab work, and then kind of slowly transitioned into getting my real estate license and kind of learning under the wing of Melanie here. And so that's kind of a little bit about ourselves here at SCV Properties. And so one of the first big questions that we always get, and that we're here to talk about today, is why real estate investing, right? We always get that question compared to things like stocks, bonds, CDs, and so that's the big question.
That is an excellent question because real estate is a process. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's something that takes time, it takes patience, and above all, it takes a whole lot of money. You don't get started in real estate by accident. You get started on purpose. So if you want to, do you want to talk about the financial planning pyramid in terms of how someone invests in general, or do you want to focus entirely on real estate just as an individual asset, or both? What's your plan?
Well, probably a little bit about both. I think the real estate pyramid is a great thing that can be explained, which is something that I kind of had a first question about, and was why that? Just like you said, you got to start with a lot of money. Why is it best to start with real estate, even though it takes a little bit more starting capital than some things like stocks?
Well, you can't just jump right in and start with real estate. You have to start with some money, because if you're trying to present yourself to a bank is not interested in taking a risk and taking a flyer on a newbie. They really want to make sure that someone has some skin in the game. So having cash and cash reserves brings you to the bottom level of the financial planning period, where you have to have money in a savings account. You have to have money in a money market account, because then that makes the bank happy. And we get better interest rates when we make banks happy. So having a minimum, when I first started buying real estate back in the dark ages, you could buy a duplex with 10% down. Those days don't exist anymore. You need 20 to 30% down depending on the lender. So if you're buying a $100,000 duplex, you better have $30,000 sitting aside in a money market account so that you have your down payment. Then you also need to have some reserves, because you can't go into real estate thinking that everybody's going to pay you rent, everybody's going to pay you on time, and nothing's going to break. You have to understand that all of that is going to hit the fan, but when you build it as a mutual fund portfolio, you will make money in real estate. And presenting yourself to the lender as someone who is easy to lend to and a low risk really is helpful getting started in real estate.
And kind of to touch on that, and I know one thing that we'll kind of talk about in a future video, like you said, making it more appealing to them is credit score. I know that's a huge part of that, and kind of how to build that and things like that is one aspect that you can kind of that you need to start to build before you kind of get into this realm of investing as well. So
yeah. If you don't pay your bills on time, forget about it. You need to pay on time. You need to pay early. You need to have a low debt to income ratio. You need to have a credit cards that are at 50% of their max lending value. So let's pretend that you have an available credit limit of $10,000 and you have $5,001 out on spent credit. You have a lower credit score than if you had $4,999 out. $2 makes a difference. So you have to pay attention to not only your available capital that you have, but how you're managing your debt.
That's a great point. And I think as we kind of move from that and into actually real estate investing itself, it seems like a great opportunity. And one of the main factors everyone sees is cash flow, right? It's that's the biggest way people know how to make money is, all right, my mortgage payment's $900 a month. I'm renting this out for $1,100 a month. There's the $200 in between. But obviously, as we kind of point out from our website and things like that, and one big resource that we share is that's actually not only one way, but there's also a bunch of other ways to make money in real estate as well.
Yeah, there are. There are a total of 5 ways that you make money in real estate. And the important thing to understand is the first way you make money is called instant equity. You make money in real estate when you buy the property. You don't necessarily realize it in dollars and cents. You also don't have to pay taxes on it right away when you buy it. So instant equity is really important. So in theory, you buy a property for $100,000. We're going to use really round numbers here because it's very easy math, and it appraises at $125,000. You just made $25,000 of instant equity, which you can leverage at a later date, but that's a whole nother episode. Caden mentioned the cash flow, always very important, because when a bank lends to you, they're looking at 1.25% of the mortgage payment. So if your mortgage payment is $500 a month, you better be making 1.25% above that in your rent. Otherwise, it's a high risk for them, and they may lend to you, but they'll lend you at a higher interest rate, which means a higher interest rate, which means lower cash flow. So you have to pay attention to that ratio with the bank.
And I know one big aspect that people come and they kind of mention too is, hey, how can I use real estate in terms of taxes and things like that? And I think there's really 2 big key parts to that. Is that correct?
There are. There's depreciation and there are tax write-offs. Do you want to explain the difference between the 2?
Sure, yeah. So tax depreciation, the difference there is once you buy the asset, then you're able to go down with depreciating, by depreciating the tax. As you buy the property, you slowly write off things like, any kind of expense related to that. And we'll get to that at a later date. LLC.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
All right. You were close. You're not. You missed a few points. When you depreciate an asset, because there's a difference between residential depreciation and commercial depreciation. You know the difference between the 2?
I do not.
Okay. Residential depreciation, you depreciate the value of the building over 27 years. The land does not depreciate. So from a tax write-off standpoint, your $100,000 building, 80 of it was building, 20 of it was land. So that 20, throw that away. We're not depreciating that. We're only depreciating the building. So you take that building and you divide it by 27. So if we had a calculator here, we would do this math. Roughly, you're looking at an $1,800 tax write-off every single year as a pure tax savings on your tax forms from that building. Multiply that by owning 10 or 20 buildings. That's your depreciation on those buildings. Now, if you're putting in hard assets within the building, it's a roof, it's a furnace, it's a hot water heater. Those items can be depreciated over 5 years as a sped up depreciation. But when you're talking about a tax write-off, paint, labor, new carpeting, that is just a pure write-off on your taxes. So if you spent $10,000 on that, you're going to write off that expense against any of the gain that you had on your building. That's the difference between depreciation and a tax write-off.
There you go. You learn something new every day. And I think that was it's kind of a great example of why real estate over something else, and it's a great snippet which obviously we'll kind of dive more into as we get into doing these weekly podcasts, which will be uploaded every single Friday, just so you guys know. So it's something to look forward to at the end of your week, going into your weekend. But just to kind of get started and kind of go a broad overview, so if somebody wants it in a quick snippet, they can get a little bit of information here and there.
Can we compare like a real estate purchase versus how that grows in gain compared to a mutual fund purchase?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's pretend we're going to work off a down payment of 10%. Easy math, right? So let's pretend you're buying a $100,000 building and you need $10,000 because you need 10 grand down. and you take that same 10 grand, you can either A, stick it in your building as a down payment, or B, stick it in a savings account. And let's pretend, because even though this is never true, they earn the exact same interest.
Yeah, we all wish that was true.
That would be fantastic. And let's pretend they earn 6%. Okay? So if you take your $10,000 and you stick it in a savings account and you earn 6% on it, what's 6% of 10,000 bucks?
6% of 10,000 bucks would be $600.
$600. However, when you take your $10,000 and you stick it in a building, what appreciates? Is it the 10 grand or is it the building?
The building, which is also a huge factor that plays against, one of the biggest things that you really can't stop is inflation. That takes, just like you're saying, a building goes up with inflation, so you're avoiding, your biggest, enemy, which is inflation over the years, because it's something where your dollar sitting in that savings account or a mutual fund becomes worth less and less as the value of the asset continues to go up with inflation.
So your $100,000 building at a 6% return, you earned $600 in your savings account. You earned $6,000 in your building. That's just on the same 10 grand, but the building appreciates, not the 10 grand. But here's the kicker. Guess what we didn't talk about?
What?
Taxes. You have to pay taxes on your $600.
Yeah.
So let's pretend you are in a 25% tax bracket. You got to give $200 of that to Uncle Sam. Your building appreciation, guess what? You get to keep it.
Yeah, which is huge, especially when you start to kind of look at, especially when the numbers start to come up, you get more and more, and you start to look towards more doors. It really adds up, and it makes a big difference, which you can also then levy with these two tax benefits that we kind of talked about as well.
Right. So if you say, I've got $100,000, because we like to work on even numbers, you could buy 10 buildings with those $100,000. And those 10 buildings, because we're working on easy math, they're all going to go up at 6%. They're all going to make $6,000. You made $60,000. Or you can take your 100 grand and you can stick it in a money market account and you can make 6% on that money, and you're going to make $1,800. Did I do bad math there?
6 times 10, $6,000.
You make $6,000, but you are going to pay $2,000 in taxes. So you're going to make $4,000 over here, and you're going to make $60,000 over here. How many times a year do you want to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not you want to do this one as many as you can over here, not the mutual fund. And then as soon as you get your money back out, your dollar here is worth less than your obviously your asset going up over here. So
now, granted, you have to deal with maintenance and other people living in your building,
tenants, yeah,
and repairs and some of the headaches that go along with that. But we were only talking about the appreciation aspect on that building. We still have the 4 other ways you make money on real estate that you don't make in other investments. That's why you operate your real estate portfolio as a mutual fund, so that some buildings are going to perform some years you're going to have a bunch of buildings that are terrible, but as a whole, you make money on them and they make wealth. They grow wealth. Because years ago, I was on vacation and we were in Illinois and we were at some shopping center somewhere, and I saw somebody wearing a t-shirt and it said, "Wake me up when I'm rich." There's no such thing as wake me up when I'm rich. We want to teach people how to become wealthy, because wealth makes money when you sleep. Rich is an accident. You don't get lucky in real estate. You become wealthy because you planned and you saved and you prepared. And that's what we're here to help you to do.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys tuned in. That has been our first inaugural episode here of why to pick real estate when investing versus other things. So tune in next Friday for your second episode, and we appreciate it.
Bye.